Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Good morning, or afternoon, or wherever you are in the world. Hello. Welcome to, this is a big one, guys. I know yesterday, if you were living under a rock, we had a big mission. We had a really exciting test flight. Probably the most exciting test flight of my life. Of course, if you are familiar, I was physically unable to be there in person for the Starship Flight 5 first catch attempt, and not only catch attempt, successful catch attempt. Oh, it just actually hurts my soul. But today is actually another mission that I'm very, very excited about. I remember hearing about this mission 7 years ago or something. I mean, this is one that I've been waiting for forever. This is the Europa, I almost said Juno. This is the Europa Clipper mission going to Jupiter's moon, Europa. It's a big deal because this is one of those major NASA missions that hopefully will teach us so much about a potentially, not necessarily habitable, but where we find water on Earth, we find life. So is that true throughout the rest of the solar system and potentially throughout the rest of the universe? Who knows? We're going to work on trying to figure some of that out. So that being said, let's do what we tend to do. I'm not going to say always do anymore because we're kind of making some changes here. But before any launch, if we want to know more information about the launch, we can just head on over to everydayastronaut.com and click on Prelaunch Previews and upcoming launches for our Prelaunch Previews. So liftoff time. This is scheduled to lift off here, and you can tell by the clock over there that it's basically just under 32 minutes from now. Prop load has begun, but that's scheduled to take off today at 16:06 UTC. So that would be 12:06. So just after noon on the East Coast. Mission name, this is the Europa Clipper mission. The launch provider for this is a SpaceX rocket. The customer for this is a NASA mission. So it's one of those, classic where NASA hired SpaceX to do this mission. And we'll talk more about this in a little bit here because it has a little bit of, politics kind of, well, not politics, but SpaceX got the contract instead of SLS. Instead of a multi-billion-dollar rocket, they got a Falcon Heavy for $178 million, which, by the way, thank you, Marius. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to say that. Marius in Discord for reminding me the number. $178 million instead of like at least $1.5 billion. Probably would have been more like $4 billion at the cost of SLS. Anyway, this is the rocket for this is Falcon Heavy. So the most powerful rocket that's currently flying and currently the most capable rocket that's currently certified to fly these missions. So that's Falcon Heavy. The current boosters it's B1089-1, that's the center core. Then B1064-6, so it's flown 6 times, and B1065-6, also flown 6 times. And this launch location is course from LC-39A, or Launch Complex 39A, at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The payload mass. This is a big deal. This is why it takes a Falcon Heavy. This thing is 6 tons. That is massive. I mean, that's the weight of, that would be a heavy, like, very heavy-duty, full-size pickup. That's almost like a small tractor trailer, like a European tractor, or semi-truck would probably be almost that weight. That's huge. And Falcon Heavy has to throw this thing all the way out to Jupiter. So, that's why it takes such a big mission, and we'll talk about this here more in a second. So where are these satellites going? Into a heliocentric orbit, and then eventually with the final orbit being the spacecraft will get itself, after some flybys and after some gravity assists of Earth and Mars, it'll end up at Jupiter, get into a elliptical orbit around Jupiter where it can constantly do flybys every, I think it's 10 days around, and do flybys of Europa, and it'll just constantly kind of buzz it, and it's going to be really, really, really cool. So where will the first stage go? B1089 will be expended, and the side boosters will also be expended. This is a fully expended Falcon Heavy mission. So as far as the Falcon Heavy mission, it's kind of boring. It's actually about as boring as it gets for Falcon Heavy because it's fully expended. But it takes all of that performance to actually throw a 6-ton spacecraft out to Jupiter. And it takes gravity assists too as well, even with Falcon Heavy. Will they be attempting to recover the fairing halves? No. Or the fairing halves, will be recovered by water. Like I just No, they will be recovered by... That doesn't make sense. They will be recovered, which is the only part of the rocket that will be reused for this particular mission. This will be the 400th SpaceX launch, the 11th Falcon Heavy launch ever. So Falcon Heavy, of course, doesn't launch as often as others. It's just that performance demand is not very necessary. This is the second Falcon Heavy launch in 2024, the 8th Falcon Heavy launch with a flight-proven stage, the 90th SpaceX launch from this launch pad, the 396th SpaceX mission. Why is that not the same as the launch? Trevor, I'm very confused by that. How can the launch be different than the mission number? What am I missing? I don't know. Anyone else confused by that? Shouldn't those numbers be the same? I mean, I don't know, because even super heavy missions, those are missions. Those are, IFT-1 mission, and it would be considered a launch. I don't know. Tests? No, I think there's now been 5 Starship launches, so that doesn't line up either. I don't think tests. I don't know. We'll try to get to the bottom of that. Anyway, 99th SpaceX launch of this year, and we're still only in mid-October, so we still have 2.5 months left. 43rd expended Falcon booster and the 44th expended Falcon booster. That's funny that that they're by far the minority. And the 323rd reflight of a Falcon booster. So, yeah, that's what we're looking at there, my friends. And yeah, that's pretty... Oh, we have closed captions on. We probably don't need those up. We've got the NASA stream up here this morning, though, and everything's looking go for launch. Interesting. I think we need to update our clock by... We need to remove 40 seconds. All right, gonna update that here. But yeah, that's what's going on here. That's the Falcon Heavy on the pad, currently undergoing prop load, which is awesome. How are you guys? Have you guys recovered from Flight 5 from the booster catch? I don't know. I'm still just... I think it's just the craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't know. That was just insane. I can't believe they caught a rocket with a launch tower. Like, imagine if Falcon Heavy took off and then landed back, like, on the tower there. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like, in all other contexts, it's just like, how did that work? I can't believe that worked. What is going on? It's just really genuinely wild. Yeah. So, let's get to some of your questions here. Let me see what we got here. I don't have a queue here, actually. If the let's see. Also, I'm double checking our clock. Yeah, that's great. Nailed it. Yeah, why what is happening here? Hang on. I'm trying to look at our queued messages here. Well, we have a new member here from Sergey. Thank you so much, Sergey, for becoming a member. I greatly appreciate it. Why is that? That's not working either. Oh no. My life. Oh, let me talk about something else, and I'll try to answer you guys' questions here as soon as I can. Because that's half the fun for me. It's just answering questions, and I don't know what to do when I can't answer. Oh yeah. Brendan Hunt from Ted Lasso. That's funny. So if you're doing very generous donations right now, I can't actually see them. Or I can't put them up on screen, but thank you so much to Dave Graham. That tracking shot yesterday. Thank you so much, Dave. I really appreciate the donation. It was absolutely incredible. Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I can't wait. We're going to get all that footage back. We actually the road just opened up this morning. So the guys are out there retrieving a lot of our cameras and our cards. So we will have some unbelievable footage. What we were able to show on stream is only a handful of our footage. A lot of our cameras are record only. We're not streaming those. So we're going to have like the best compilation here. It might take us a couple days just because the files are so big since we didn't get to them this morning. Even transferring these things, even on like, relatively high speed internet is, it still takes a while. So, you know what? I think this message system might be on my end where something's wrong. Let me see. Yeah, I think it's on the wrong thing maybe or something. Okay, yeah. Let's see if we can get that fixed, and if not, it's all right. Maybe it's something on my end. Yeah. If I have to refresh it or something, just let me know, Mary Liz. We'll try and get those comments going. Okay, we'll probably just listen in here soon too, by the way, because we're now within T-minus 20 minutes. But one thing I wanted to talk about that I talked about a little bit yesterday was we are almost sold out we've already sold out of some of our tickets here for Astro Awards Live, January 25th, 26th. If you guys want to celebrate missions like this Europa Clipper mission that will certainly, assuming it goes well, have some kind of nomination for an Astro Award. The Astro Awards are where we literally hand physical trophies, to representatives of the missions. Like here, I'll show you a little clip here, where we're handing out trophies to the people behind these missions. We did this for the first time this January, and it was, SpaceX Falcon director there. We had people from all over, from Firefly, from ISRO, from ESA, from Ariane Space. We had people from all around the world coming to celebrate and to accept awards in person. And that was just our first year. I also played music, and we'd throw a big party, and it's just an absolute blast. Last year was amazing, but it's kind of a minimum viable product. This year, well, it's kind of weird because it's this year, 2024 calendar year awards, but we celebrate it in January after the calendar year ends, January 25th, 26th in Austin, Texas. We're expanding it big time. It's 2 days now. There's like 7 or 8 panels. I don't even remember panels, and we'll have a keynote speech. We'll have we're going to hear from astronauts. We're going to hear from people that work in the industry. We're going to hear from content creators. We're going to be announcing the lineups. We're going to start doing confirmations in the lineups in November. But right now we have early bird tickets available. Like I said, we already sold out of our Apogee tickets. Our orbital tickets, which is kind of like our VIP meet and greet opportunities and stuff, are half sold out already too. And we haven't even done too many social media posts about this yet. So if you want to join us for the Astro Awards, I would get your ticket right now. Because, they're selling out actually quite quick this year. Maybe because we actually had enough time to do this and prepare for this. And maybe now people know what we're doing, and it's awesome. You won't want to miss out on this. It's going to be incredible. AstroAwards.live. There you go. It looks like we might be getting our queue thing fixed, so I'll be able to answer your questions here relatively soon. Back to the rocket on the pad. This is from a message here from Rob Christopher. Thanks again for what you do. Do you think the Raptor engine bells had the regen cooling during the descent? So, I don't quite know how you can do that. You might be able to do that if you had a way, our friends at Stoke Space, who won an Astro Award last year, or they had an honorable mention. What did they have? I think they had an honorable mention. We talked about them a good amount, though. Stoke Space has a regenerative heat shield concept. And that's able to force propellant, specifically liquid hydrogen, through the walls of the base of the heat shield, and then it does go through the engine nozzles and all that stuff too. However, the drive for that is the heat. Let me think about this, because that's an expansion cycle. With Raptor, I'm trying to imagine if they have a way to open up the regen channels without using the pumps. Because you still have to dump it overboard. You have to dump the gaseous methane overboard. I don't know enough about the plumbing of Raptor to know if there's a good way to take latent heat from reentry, have it be liquid in a liquid state in the bells, in the regen channels, have it, I don't know how it could be directional. There's no, because with the expander cycle, when it does heat up, it goes through the turbine then, and that spins the pumps, and that pushes brand new fresh propellant through the nozzles. With Raptor, the regen channels are after the pumps and after the turbine. So there's no mechanism that would make it continue to move in that direction and flow. You'd have to have like an auxiliary pump, or something. And that might be something that SpaceX has to look into. It looks like the booster experienced a lot of heat. So yeah, it was pretty wild that the booster came back and actually it was able to do that landing burn, because it looks like some of the nozzles were deformed. It looks like the base of the booster was taking a lot of heat. This is totally my Kerbal Space Program opinion. This is not my Tim. I don't have an engineering degree or anything. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see the chines expand, get a little bit bigger on future boosters, to take more advantage. Oopsies. Something happened in the NASA production. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see those grow to be more like strakes, kind of like what New Glenn has. New Glenn has these large strakes along the sides of the booster, and that allows it to glide more through the atmosphere. And if you're able to do that with the booster, here I'll use a Falcon 9 booster, for example. Okay, if you're going straight through the wind stream, let's get the grid fins out. Let's do all the fun things. Let's collapse the landing legs even. It's been a while since I've done that, just so it looks pleasant. Okay, so you collapse the landing legs. It's coming back in through re-entry. Pretend it's a Falcon Heavy booster, or Falcon 9 even, doesn't matter. If you come straight back into the atmosphere, following its ballistic trajectory, like following its angle of attack, so after the boost back burn, it'll be at an angle. It's not coming straight back down. And the rocket does not ascend straight up. It has to pitch over for its gravity assist, and then on its way back, it does a boost back burn, and then it falls. And when it falls, it's not falling straight down. If it fell straight down, that'd be even worse, actually. It'd be even harder to scrub off velocity using the aerodynamic lift and drag of the vehicle. Now, the more they're able to pitch it over, the more surface area, just like when it's belly flopping. Remember when the upper stage belly flops, it's revealing, I guess, the greatest amount of surface area to the wind stream as possible, as physically possible. So therefore, it induces the most drag. Therefore, it can reduce the velocity of the vehicle. And for in the case of Starship re-entry and that landing, it really makes it so the amount of landing propellant at the end is very minimal. Now for Falcon, or for the Super Heavy booster, if they're able, the more they're able to pitch that over and slow down in the upper atmosphere, the less heat we'll see at the base of the vehicle. So I wouldn't be surprised if having seen that and having deformed nozzles and almost having burned through what it looks like in the thrust section of the lower thrust section of the Super Heavy booster, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see those chines grow more into strakes. But we'll have to see. At the end of the day, that's not a big deal for SpaceX to make those kind of changes after seeing data and after reviewing how things went, and now having a booster recovered. They can literally look into how it fared and how those Raptor engines, like how does this actually look in terms of potentially rapid reusability. It might not be good. It might be like, oh, we got to do more work. They might need to implement more regen cooling. They might implement like an active heat shield on the base of the vehicle. It's kind of hard to tell at this point what's going to be next, but I wouldn't be surprised if they make some changes. People are saying my clock is off by 8 seconds. You guys have a delay, because whenever you encode video on the internet, it's at minimum about 7 to 8 seconds through YouTube. So our clocks are synced with the stream. That's the important part, because I am off because I'm receiving their data, about 20 seconds behind. 20 or 30 seconds is how long, because NASA's streaming in 4K. So I'm 20 or 30 seconds behind real time from NASA, and then I'm re-encoding it here and sending it to you guys. So it's another 8 seconds. So if you were at the Cape and you're watching me, you need to be paying attention starting at about T-minus 1 minute, because it will very surprisingly, it'll very surprisingly be off for you. Like I'll be at T-minus 1 minute or T-minus 40 seconds or whatever, and it'll be lifting off. You're like, wait, what? So just pay attention to that. We have some other questions here from Tolkien. Let's see. Will the tower arms need to be upgraded for when they catch starships so that it doesn't come down directly on a booster that's sitting on the pad? So there will be a big time delay between a booster landing and that's for some reason the condensation today looked gray there. Maybe a cloud just flew over or something. It looked gray, and it kind of spooked me out for a second. But that is just condensation, not smoke. Hopefully, my God, there's a $5 billion spacecraft inside that fairing. Please don't let there be any smoke. I obviously don't think it is. It's condensation. That's normal. I should not even have pointed that out, because now people are going to be speculating, why does it look kind of gray? I'm sure it's just this camera angle view and the fact that it's almost exactly noon. We have a straight down direct over top sun. But yeah, that's just condensation clouds that builds up on the oxygen tanks of the propellant, because it's liquid oxygen inside those tanks. Man, I keep getting encoder glitches too from even NASA has a hard time encoding. I'm glad to know it's not us. We'll just go 1080 and see if that fixes those glitches. Nope, does not fix those glitches. Is anyone else seeing those? If anyone else has the is anyone else having those glitches? Now I have it. By the way, I have an internal server error on our chat system. I'll go back to 4K, because that does not seem to be any better. I think that's, yeah, I think that's on NASA's side. It's hard. I'm telling you guys, doing 4K is like, it's only 4 times more pixels. You think it'd be, not even 4 times harder. You think like, oh, you already have the infrastructure, you have the things. Like, it's maybe twice as hard. I swear, going from 1080 to 4K was 10 times harder. Everything is just horrible. Let's see, and also we have. Hang on, I'm gonna take this off screen for a second and try to fix something, because it is kind of glitching out on me, even on this end of things. It's saying, yeah, I don't care. Let's see if this works. And as we get closer here, guys, we'll, of course, put this on screen and keep it on screen. What is going on? Wow, that's bad. It's not looking great. That is some nasty encoder issues. But that is like a traditional, that's exactly what an encoder glitching out looks like. And we have had those problems. Our Luna van, we have experienced problems. We're seeing it on every screen coming from NASA. So it's not just from their pad cameras. This is like their final encoder issue. Eek. Oh, that sucks. We found out one time. We had a problem where our encoder was actually, it was like an automatic thing. And it was sending, like when it's on a still frame like this, sending relatively low amount of data to YouTube. And it was doing variable bit rate, and we couldn't change it to a fixed bit rate. And so when all of a sudden the rocket lifted off, the whole scene changes. There's smoke, there's flames, there's all this crazy stuff on screen. And all of a sudden the whole thing just crashed. And like we just had nothing on screen. And it was like, okay, well that sucked, because it actually oversaturated the YouTube feed, and the YouTube just kind of goes, I can't accept 100 megabits per second or something, or whatever it was. And that spike just like totally took down our stream. It sucked. So we've had these problems. I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one. I'm glad to know that even NASA has problems with live streams, because it is hard. It's actually really, really hard to do right. Anyway, back to the question of, if Starship is landing and being caught by the tower, how do they like not have it run into the booster? Well, so first off, you'd think like, okay, if the booster lands after 7 minutes, and the Starship takes about 90 minutes to orbit, you might go, okay, they have 90 minutes. Well, even in the absolute quickest possible time to get Starship back to the pad, it'd be more like 4.5 hours. It's kind of the first real opportunity. It might even be 6 hours, because it might be 4 orbits. But because of, where's my globe? I always forget. Oh, it's like way over there. Crap. Because of the inclination, Starbase is at, I believe it's like 26 or 27 degrees north. It's on a slightly, it has an inclination to the orbit. So that means that, if you kind of looked at it on a 2D map, it would go like this. It'd be like a sine wave. And those, as the Earth rotates, the next pass at its peak at that 26 or 27 degrees north won't line up with Texas. So Starbase will be to the east of it on the first orbit, and then it'll continue going east and until it gets all the way around, basically until it lines back up. It might be 4 orbits later, so 90 minutes times 4, that's 6 hours. And that being said, even 6 hours of difference. You know what? I wonder if. Hey, I'm gonna see if I can just switch to a different feed altogether. I'll look for another option. Give me a second here, guys. I wish I could just hang on. But yeah, so even in best case scenario, it'd be something like 4.5 to 6 hours between the two launches, and then or between between the two orbits. I'm like really distracted trying to fix this right now because this is annoying me quite a bit. I'm gonna switch entirely because that's really, really bad. It might not look quite as good, but obviously it's going to look a lot better actually at the same time. That's weird. What? That is so weird. Weird. X is not working for me either. Let me try. God, this guy's voice that I'm hearing right now in my ears sounds just like Ryan. SpaceX is not even streaming this at all. I wonder if it looks any better on X. Hang on. This one is ahead. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm actually going to switch to the Mary Liz, remove another 32 seconds now. And we're going to go with this. This one actually... Oh, now that I say that, this one's buffering too. No. What is happening this morning? Makes me appreciate our team down there in Texas. We were able to produce an incredible 4K live stream in a very remote location. But this one might be a notch better. We'll see. Yeah, it's sadly on the YouTube, like NASA to YouTube side, because this seems to be more stable. Okay, let's keep... Oh, crap. Give me a second. I lost my... Sorry, the way I do things here is really dumb, where I do like a full screen share, and sometimes that's not great because I lose the things that I was using to talk, and that's not great. Where did that go in general? Jeez. Now I lost that entirely. This is great entertainment. I am so proud. Okay, that disappeared entirely. So now I don't have anything anymore. Oh, here we go. If I do this, it'll work. Okay. 1 second. And here it comes again. All right, let's listen in here for a second.
Stage. As we mentioned earlier, the 3 boosters are expendable fully. They will not be coming back for landing today. SpaceX is getting the team ready to launch this vehicle today.
And you just heard the call out that the strong back is retracting. That strong back appears to have retracted. So we're getting some discussion on the nets regarding the second stage.
NY LOX load is complete.
As we just got completion of LOX load for the Y booster. We're looking for now the center core and the plus Y.
Of course, this being the most expensive launch SpaceX ever. Expensive and important launch
NLM,
SpaceX
it's the
ever
LD on
done.
the countdown net with a final status check.
Yes, LD, this is NLM on countdown 1, NASA spacecraft, and the NASA team is go for launch pending resolution of the anomaly.
Copy. Go pending outbrief of the issue being discussed on the anomaly net.
Affirmative.
Okay, Tim, so they've mentioned that they're working an anomaly. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so as we mentioned, they're monitoring some temperatures on the second stage, and things are the teams continue to look at that as they continue filling second stage with liquid oxygen. They're continuing to look at that and monitor
Center
that
core, LOX load
as
is
far
complete.
as they can into the count. So things are continuing to progress forward with LOX load. Center core is just finished up, so all 3 boosters are filled with LOX and RP1. The second stage has RP1 on, and we're getting near completion of stage 2 LOX load as the team continues to look at that temperature in the second stage. But we did hear NASA Launch Manager Tim Dunn tell Charlie Meyer,
Stage
SpaceX
2 LOX
Launch
load is
Director,
complete.
that they are go for launch pending the resolution of this temperature issue. So the team has continued to work that, and the team will continue to progress forward in their procedure.
And so these discussions are happening very quickly as we are counting down now inside the final 2 minutes until liftoff.
Absolutely, so, and we just...
If they don't get this resolved, it'll be, I think at this point, a 48-hour reset since the vehicle is basically fully loaded. They do have a new propellant system out there for this pad for this reason, to be able to do a quick refill, but I think if it's fully loaded, I don't think they have a 24-hour reset. I think it's a 48-hour reset. But don't mark my words. We'll listen in.
Progressing forward for the launch this morning, or this afternoon.
Closeouts.
We are now 90 seconds until liftoff. Weather is 95% go. These boosters on the outside, they have flown before the Psyche mission a little more than a year ago. They are back on the pad along with a brand new center core booster and a spacecraft bound for the Jupiter moon Europa.
Yeah, Daryl, I can confirm, listening to the
Heavy
teams, that everybody is go for launch. They have resolved the temperature issue they were looking at on second stage. Everybody's given the go for that, and Falcon is in startup, so the flight computer has taken over, and we're getting ready for the
SpaceX
final
Launch Director is go for launch.
Wow.
And there we hear Charlie Meyer say that SpaceX is ready for launch, and Europa Clipper getting ready to lift off.
And there's a great update as now it vents out the LOX inside the line of the transporter erector. We are inside of 30 seconds.
Let's go. Going to Jupiter, baby. Big mission, guys. My clock might be a little bit ahead, by the way. So I apologize.
You minus 15 seconds and counting.
And here we go.
Yeah, it's a good
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff. Liftoff.
Going.
The Falcon Heavy with Europa Clipper, unveiling the mysteries of an enormous ocean lurking beneath the icy crust of Jupiter's moon, Europa.
Engine chamber pressures are nominal.
See that the chamber pressures are nominal as we hear. All 27 Merlin engines look great.
Rocket beginning to roll.
I think leapt off the
Putting
pad.
down 5.1 million pounds of thrust.
They're giving it everything.
Coming up, they're going to back off those engines just a bit.
Specifically on the center core. The center core is what does this rocket.
Getting ready to head into max
Power
Q.
and telemetry nominal.
We hear that power and telemetry on the vehicle are good there. Everything's looking really
Falcon
well.
Heavy is supersonic.
They have reduced power in the center core to get through max Q, maximum dynamic pressure on the launch vehicle as we approach that. The 2 side boosters at full throttle.
A beautiful shot there as our camera team
Max Q.
locking into the rocket on a clear blue sky. The view from the booster cam back down on Earth.
And there we heard the call for max Q. The vehicle is passing through maximum dynamic pressure. Next thing up in about 2 minutes will be booster engine cutoff, where we see the 2 side booster engines, all 18, shut down and get ready for booster separation. But the vehicle is performing very well. Looking at all the telemetry that we have, power and trajectory are nominal.
We've been flying for just under 2 minutes so far. Everything looking good. These side boosters, once they do their job, they will be expended. If you're familiar with the Falcon Heavy, you know that they bring the boosters back on certain launches, but not on this one, because all of the performance is needed to push Europa Clipper into its proper orbit.
She's going to be screaming at stage
Things continue to look good as the vehicle heads down its ascent phase here. All telemetry is looking very nominal for this flight this morning. Falcon Heavy is performing very well.
Now we're just about 30 seconds away from separating those side boosters. Their engines will cut off first, then they will separate.
MVAC is chilling.
Starting to chill down that MVAC-D engine in the second stage.
And that's where we need to get the engine chilled to the proper temperatures before flowing liquid oxygen and RP1 into it. So they're conditioning the engine to make sure things are ready for when it's ready to start up.
Stand by for booster separation.
Man, it's crazy how long those boosters can burn.
Booster engine cutoff.
Do a boost back.
Side booster separation confirmed.
And there they go.
Those two boosters previously flown on Psyche. This will be their 6th flight. We thank you for their service this morning. They did a great job of getting Falcon Heavy and Europa Clipper on its way as the center core takes over and continues mission down its ascent. Things are looking really good in the telemetry. Power and trajectory look nominal, and chamber pressures on the 9 center core engines look really good.
In just a little more 20 seconds from now, we'll get the cutoff of the main engine on the center core booster that remains. 4 seconds after that, we will separate. Flying out over the Atlantic Ocean. There's a look from inside.
There we
Vigo.
see stage 1
Stage
shutdown
separation confirmed.
and stage separation from the center core. Getting ready for MVAC startup, SES-1.
We're getting some applause here in the Mission Directors Center, and there you see the MVAC-D engine lighting up.
Next thing up in about 10 seconds will be fairing separation.
NYPY FTS has saved.
And the fairing has protected Europa Clipper on its ascent up into space, but once we get into space, we don't need that fairing anymore.
Fairing
there they go.
separation confirmed.
I know this is
Fairing has separated.
These types of things are all super routine for SpaceX these days. This is our 400th mission. Like, I know that fairing separation is normal. I know second stage light is normal, but when it's a $5 billion spacecraft going to Jupiter, the stakes are just that much higher.
Performs its first burn here. This is about a 3-minute and 47-second burn. Things are looking great. Matter of fact, this is one of the shortest first burns that has been done on a Falcon Heavy by SpaceX, but it is required to get us into that parking orbit for that long coast that we have to get ready for the interplanetary trajectory that we're going to need to get Europa Clipper on its way that we heard Jenny talk about to get those Earth assist slingshots as it heads on its way for its mission. So things looking really good this morning with the performance of the Falcon Heavy. MVAC is performing well, and everything looks good thus far in today's mission.
Usually those burns are the other way around, with a longer first burn and the shorter second burn, but in this case it is reversed. As we look at some crystal clear views of the MVAC-D engine, the stage 2 that's carrying Europa Clipper, orbital light is shining both on the spacecraft, the second stage, and on planet Earth.
Center
And
core
it is
FTS
beautiful.
has saved.
There we've heard that the flight termination system on the center core has been saved as it heads back to splash down. Things are looking good. I can tell you, Darryl, we had a beautiful weather day for launch, and as we're looking at MVAC flying in space with Europa Clipper, it is such a gorgeous view with Earth behind it, and so we could not have had a better day for a mission launch today.
No doubt about it, Mick. It was simply gorgeous. We had a hurricane a week ago, but after that pushed out, it brought us in its wake near perfect weather for launch. And now we're into space, dealing with the harsh conditions up there.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Stage 2 has made its way into space far enough away for us to be able to safe the flight termination system from a safety perspective. We're about a minute away from second stage engine cutoff, as we'll see the MVAC-D shut down and get ready for a long coast, getting Europa Clipper into that parking orbit and on its way for the next firing that we will have, the second stage, number 2, to get it into that interplanetary transfer orbit that we need to get Europa Clipper started. So things looking very well this morning. We're about 30 seconds from that stage engine cutoff, which we refer to as SECO 1.
Stage
right,
2's
we'll
in
get into
terminal
that.
guidance.
Get into that coast phase. These views brought to you, of course, by ground stations across the track that are pulling in the high-resolution data from the cameras.
Speaking of, I'm surprised now that Starlink has proven to work so well on Starship, even through re-entry. I'm actually shocked that SpaceX hasn't just put a Starlink terminal on the second stage. Here we go. That was SECO.
The first burn is complete.
Yep, things look really well on the stage burn result. Apogee, perigee, and everything for the mission looks really good. Engine performance, very well performance by the second stage for this first burn. And things continue to look good as we head into this long coast for this parking orbit.
All
It's a long coast, and we'll hit that second burn, roughly 3 minutes and 21 seconds long. This one was roughly 3 minutes and 9 seconds. And
That is short.
Mick, you saw the data from it, and
Nominal
it all
orbit
looked pretty good. Then there you go, the
Yep,
confirmation.
we're hearing confirmation that we have nominal orbital insertion. As we were looking at the telemetry here, Daryl, that things looked very good. Stage 1 and Stage 2 performed very well on that ascent flight. And we'll continue to follow Stage 2 to get ready for that second burn. And then, of course, what we're really looking forward to, Europa Clipper separation.
It's going to be a beautiful moment. If the pictures are as clear as we've seen so far, we will see it in all of its glorious detail. All right. We will continue monitoring the coast phase of the second stage with Europa Clipper, and we will bring that to you. Of course, any updates that we have, we'll check back in with you in a little bit, but for now, let's send it back to the host desk with Megan and Jenny.
Awesome. I'm going to answer some of your guys' questions here while we... that is awesome, though. I mean, that's looking good so far. I don't actually know how long the coast phase is, and unfortunately, I have to get back on the road today. So I'm going to answer a few more questions, and I'm going to get out of here in 15 minutes. So we got 15 minutes to hang out, and then you'll have to just figure out what happened on your own with with coasting and spacecraft separation. So let's see here. Let's answer this one from John Lynch. I just purchased my Astro Awards ticket. Looking forward to it. Great job to the entire team yesterday. It looked like SpaceX had a big party last night in the Mega Bay. It sure does look like that. As they should. Yeah, and again, I'll say it one more time and then we'll just answer questions. Be sure and check out our Astro Awards tickets before they sell out, because we're already selling out. AstroAwards.live. That's AstroAwards.live. Get your tickets. We've already sold out of our Apogee tickets, which is where we can have the ability to have dinner with some of our awardees and some of the VIPs and speakers and stuff. But we're going to have panels, a party, and then we're handing out the awards on Sunday. This is a 2-day event this time. It's going to be amazing. Wait until you see the confirmed speakers. But for now, we have our early bird pricing through November 1st. So go over to AstroAwards.live. Like I said, we're sold out of our top. We're halfway sold out already of our orbital package as well, which is kind of our VIP meet and greet opportunities. So if you want your chance to get in here, you better do it now. January 25th, 26th, Austin, Texas. Seriously, get your tickets now because they are selling out already. So can't wait to see you guys there. It's going to be amazing. This year's going to be even better than last, and last year was super fun. Okay, so this is good. Thank you so much from Save the Humans saying that our footage from Starship launch was fantastic. Yeah, the team absolutely knocked it out of the park. Especially Ryan with Cosmic Perspective and Andrew Keating down there, both Cosmic Perspective members, working between launches. That's basically their full-time job, is preparing for the next launch. And it shows. It's incredible. And like I said, you haven't even seen all of the good stuff. You haven't even seen all of the goods yet. It's going to be absolutely wild when we get all that footage back and compile it, and the audio back. And then, of course, we had John Pisani and Nick and Spencer and a bunch of people helping remotely, Ben and Chad and a bunch of people helping from all around the United States. I can't wait. I honestly think like we might have some of the best footage of it, period. I mean, obviously SpaceX has some views that we can't have, but we have, like, that tracking shot is, like, unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Let's see here. This is a really good question from Cynical Chaos. Why do we never get a view from the International Space Station during these flights? For this, I'm just going to go get my globe because it'll be easy to explain. So, it is dusty. It has been... Dusty globe. Okay. The International Space Station is at 51.6 degrees inclination. So, where's Florida for you guys? There we go. Okay, so Florida. So if you're launching from Florida, you're basically flying up the coast at 50. You're leaving the launch pad at about a 45 degree angle, but then the rotation of the Earth makes it so you're at a 51.6 degree inclination. And so now you imagine like a hula hoop around the Earth at this kind of an angle. And so as the Earth rotates, the orbit doesn't. The orbit stays fixed in space, relative to the Earth, right? Fixed relative to the Earth. And now the ground track, what's going to happen is this band will pass over Florida every 90 minutes. You know, will be where the International Space Station's orbit at 300, roughly 250, 300 miles or 450, 500 kilometers in altitude. You know, just off the surface of the Earth, basically. If you looked at it from here, it'd be like just skimming. It's funny. That seems really high, but it's not actually all that high. Is the track of that orbit is going by every 90 minutes. However, during those 90 minutes, the spacecraft can be anywhere along that orbit. Well, obviously it's a fixed amount of time. So now you have phasing to worry about. So not only is it that the orbit has to be lined up with the Earth, because the International Space Station isn't just here. You know, some people think, you just go up and the International Space Station is just right there and it follows you. No. The International Space Station and most everything in space, actually, like 95% of all satellites are in low Earth or medium Earth orbit. There are a lot of geostationary orbits, I think over 600 vehicles operate beyond medium Earth orbit. But in order to be geostationary, which means it follows the Earth, it's way out here at like 27,000 kilometers in distance. And that makes it so its orbital period is 24 hours. So even if the International Space Station was a fixed point in space, you know, compared to the Earth at a geostationary orbit, then even then, you'd be so far away that like a really good telescope wouldn't even be able to see the launch. So it has to be lined up with the orbit, which again is every 90 minutes, but it also has to be in its phase where it's actually at during that orbit. And actually, by the way, the actual ground track is less than 90 minutes because the orbit's 90 minutes, the rotation of the Earth. Oh, no, sorry, the rotation of the Earth is only twice a day on the ascending and descending node. My bad. What am I thinking? It only passes by the orbit twice a day, ascending and descending node. There we go. So on its way this way, and then over here it's passing by on its way down, basically. So then that also has to line up with where the spacecraft is at every 90 minutes. So for the first orbit, it might be here. Second orbit, now it's here over, you know, who knows, Colorado or something. On third orbit, here over Washington. Fourth orbit, here. Now we're getting, you know, like that's how that works. And so it's obviously orbiting at 90 minutes. It does that orbit every, you know, whatever that is, 18 times a day or something. Yeah, that's why the ISS can't just film a launch. It has to be in phase, and not only in phase, like on its orbit, but the orbit has to be aligned over the Earth. So there we go. Sorry, that was not the best explanation. This is from Brady. Thank you so much. Woo, let's find some aliens. That might be what this mission does. This mission might find signs of life, which would be absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, that's like the ultimate goal of space exploration. From Minimalicious, isn't our clown world beautiful? Isn't our clown world Earth beautiful? Isn't our yeah. Yes, it is. It absolutely is. Wolfgang, thank you so much for becoming a member. This is from NNN. Will you be showing the booster landings? That would be very hard on this mission because they are not landing the boosters of Falcon Heavy. This mission required all of the performance of the Falcon Heavy rocket, and therefore it is completely expended. All the boosters are now becoming reefs on the bottom of the ocean. So It's funny how that now seems like absurd. Like they threw away a rocket, but like that's still the norm in the industry. Like every other option on the table was an expendable rocket. Originally, this mission was supposed to fly on an SLS rocket, but due to the availability of that vehicle, which every single SLS is tied up now for the Artemis program, and the production schedule is not necessarily the fastest thing in the world. And also the cost of multi-billion-dollar rocket. They went with, it could have, now SLS has more performance than Falcon Heavy expended in the expended mode. So it could have got to Jupiter in 2.5 or 3 years or something. But, yeah, that cost and availability kind of became a game changer. So this will take a little over 6 years, almost 7 years, I think, to get into its orbit around Jupiter. So, I would say that I would take the wait, because I think you'd be waiting a long time anyway for SLS. So definitely seems to be the better option. Okay, thank you so much to Vex WH for becoming a member. Let's see. This is from Francisco Hamlin. Why aren't the side booster holders attached to the side boosters? You want to expend as much mass as possible. Typically, that is actually even if they're recovered. You're right. Yeah, why isn't it backwards? That's actually a good point. That you'd want almost the hydraulics and stuff like that to be on the boosters to alleviate that mass from the center core. You'd think you could actually potentially have a little bit more performance doing it that way. I'm not sure why that is. It might be vestigial from when Falcon Heavy was supposed to be fully recoverable. And now, yeah, you'd want those hydraulics to be recovered, the expensive motion, aspect. I just wonder if at this point they're like, well, we already developed it, because originally the center core is planned to be reusable on most missions, and now we've found it to be basically never going to be reused. And at the time, it probably just wasn't really a huge consideration. The performance hit would be pretty minimal between having it on the boosters. Actually, there's a chance that because the boosters have to do a boost back burn and the center core doesn't, that it actually would be lower performing to have those heavy hydraulic aspects, the moving parts on the boosters, compared to the center core. But I don't know. That might be complete garbage. You typically do want to have the upper stage things that is more of a 1-to-1, especially like the second stage is literally a 1-to-1 ratio. For every kilogram of mass on the second stage, you're removing a kilogram of mass from your payload. And on booster stages, like a Falcon 9, it's like more like a 4-to-1. So you can add 4 kilograms of mass, like landing legs. Say you have, I'm just making a number up, 4,000 kilograms of mass on the landing legs. You'd reduce your payload mass by about 1,000. In general, obviously, that's not including boost back burn and landing burn propellant and all that stuff. It gets complicated, but that's a really good question, actually. But at this point, I'm guessing it's like, let's not touch Falcon Heavy. We're barely flying Falcon Heavy. It has a few missions, and we know what it can do, and why fix it if it works. No need to really optimize it when Starship is clearly the direction the company is going. This is from God's Eye. Do you think SpaceX needs any kind of approval from FAA to include a Starlink terminal on second stage, or can they slap one on and get going? I think it's more of an FCC thing. I think that's more their realm, Federal Communications. But I am surprised they don't do that, because it's clearly worked out very, very well on Starship, and then they wouldn't have any dead zones. There would not be. Right now, they can't get video downlink where it's at in orbit, because there's no ground stations. You can see that on the map. It's really small for you guys, but you can see it in the bottom left-hand side of your screen right now. The spacecraft is currently in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and there's no ground stations for it. So they can't push video right now. If they had Starlink on it like Starship does, then they could. Christopher Jones, thank you so much for the super chat. You are awesome. This is from Justin Jockler. I was in New York City because one of my best friends since second grade got married. And so it's funny. I had literally 3 things on my calendar for the entire summer and fall. 2 of them are weddings, and 1 was a music festival that I had to play at. And guess what? The first wedding ended up lining up with Polaris Dawn. The music festival was on the same day as Crew 9. And then, of course, As we know, Flight 5 of Starship happened right the morning of, like, my friend's wedding was on Saturday night. I could not physically even get to Texas in time on commercial flights. So I was unable to be there for the first full stack flight. And of course, it was an awesome one to miss, but I wouldn't have missed my friend's wedding, period. So it was worth it to see them and see all my friends too. We've got a very special group of friends that we've all been friends since second grade. So most of us friends since second grade, but a group of friends that have been core since our childhood, and we don't always get a chance to spend time together. So when we do get together, it's very special and meaningful, and that's important to me. So of course, like, you can't hold your entire life for, especially this particular mission, for Flight 5. As of like less than a week before that thing launched, we thought it was going to be late November. And I was like, yes, this is awesome. I don't even have to worry about it. And then, of course, I'd have to totally rearrange my life to be like, it's just not worth it. It's not worth the stress of saying, I was already stressful enough trying to stream from a hotel, honestly, and also communicate with the team and stuff back in Texas while trying to also have a life. That's why I wasn't in the studio yesterday. It was for a good reason. It wasn't for anything sad, like a family emergency or something. It was for a good reason, but it was still stressful, and that's the worst part about this job, is like trying to have these unknown like time frames, these soft calendar, like penciled in dates of like, well, we think it's going to be like end of the month. Like, that is the worst feeling when you're like, what? I'm trying to plan a family vacation, or I'm trying to attend my friend's wedding, or I'm trying to go to this concert, or I'm trying to do something in my personal life. And you just have to put, or vacations even, like planning a vacation as a space flight, either, someone in the media or journalists or whatever, you may have the guys at NASA Spaceflight and stuff, and photographers, they all know this pain. If you try to put a vacation on your calendar, with a loved one or with a family or something, it's like almost impossible, because it's like, let's put March 15th on the calendar, but I have no idea. When it gets closer, I'll have to let you know I might have to cancel. And like, that's a terrible feeling. That's the worst part of this job by far. This is from Liam. Good to hear from you, Liam. Liam, the rocket nerd. How long do you think it'll take for SpaceX to get to IFT-6? And what do you think they will have to change in between flights? I hope that we see another, full stack flight before the end of the year. That would be my guess, is that hopefully Flight 6 does almost the exact same thing as Flight 5, proves that they can do this, kind of like they did with SN5 and 6. They're basically the same thing. Maybe they add now that in-flight relight of a Raptor engine that they still haven't proven out. Now that they've kind of got some better data. However, and I think they'll do that honestly because at this point, they're clearly moving forward with version 2 of Starship. And they might just send this next one just to do things like Raptor relight, knowing that they have a solution, hopefully, in the cards to be able to not have the flaps burn through as much, with some redesigned hinges and the actual shape of the forward flaps and the location of them. So hopefully, they're just wanting to get into that pretty quickly. This is from Siren Drive and the ISRO rockets behind me. Sadly, I do not have anything from ISRO yet. But I do have an idea of something I want to do with ISRO someday. It'd be awesome. Let's see. Gene Simon, how much more performance would Falcon Heavy have without the hardware for landing? So this one did not have any. It didn't have grid fins. It didn't have landing legs. Did it? Now that I say that, actually, it's not supposed to. I don't even remember. Hang on, give me a second here. Let's look at this again. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but give me a second. I am now blanking on whether or not it did. Hang on. I'm looking at a shot of it. Yeah, it didn't have landing legs, right? Why would they have landing legs on it? Here we go. Yeah, no landing legs. Just you can see the soot line of where the landing legs were, but so no landing legs, and the performance is hard to measure because we're used to using like Delta V, but Delta V is dependent on your destination and on your your destination requirements and your payload of what your payload is, how much mass you're pushing around. That changes your Delta V. So like you can say, so the real term would be C3. That's like how much overall performance does the performance characteristic of that rocket have regardless of payload. Like how much total performance, I guess. I don't know what the total potential velocity, no. Total impulse, kind of, I guess, would be what C3 is basically. And I think if you're not recovering at all, you gain a good 40% extra performance compared to having reuse. And it's not just the reuse hardware. If it's just say you're had the same flight profile, but you had reuse hardware on there, you'd maybe only take like a 5 or 10% hit on performance. But it's the propellant being used to do the landings that's the biggest performance hit. It's not necessarily the additional hardware. I hope that makes sense. It's from Kyan. How do you transmit the pad camera's feed back to your studio? So we use a mixture. Some cameras are so remote and so far away that we actually go through Starlink. We encode, and then bring it back down into the van via Starlink. Other options are radio transmission. So literally like a Wi-Fi beam, like a 5 gigahertz directed beam that gets it like line of sight right back to us. So it almost feels like there's an 8 kilometer long or 5 mile long Cat 6 cable run, across the crazy grounds of Boca Chica. But really, it's just a wireless connection. So that's our primary one, because we can get really good data speeds with that. We can get hundreds of megabytes of data through that, which is good because really, realistically, for 4K, you want 20 would be stable, 30's pretty good. We want 30 megabits per second. So having some additional headroom on there is a very, very good thing. What if a satellite gets hit by a rocket in space? How big are the odds? So they track all that. There's literally like the biggest thing is when a rocket is first getting into orbit, it's in a lower orbit. The parking orbits are low, so it's below all operational satellites by 100 plus kilometers normally. So we're talking a very big distance. And then it is important to keep in mind that even though like when you see those graphics and you see satellites, like this blob of satellites, and it looks really scary, like there's all the space debris everywhere, the reality is that satellites normally smaller than a car. And think about how many cars there are on Earth. There's billions of cars on the Earth, and they're only taking up a two-dimensional space, more or less. They're all relatively on the same, plus or minus. I guess you might have like a few stories of like a parking garage, right? They're plus or minus about 20 meters or something throughout basically their entire existence. Satellites, on the other hand, have multiple huge differences in altitudes to work with, and then they're moving so quickly that when a spacecraft is trying to go from like a parking orbit beyond all those satellites to thread that needle, both of those vehicles are taking up that amount of space for such a little amount of time. A collision is actually quite hard. It actually takes. That was a big weapon development, was to be able to actually hit a satellite is actually difficult, because they're whizzing by so quickly. They're going 10 times faster than a sniper rifle around, absolutely screaming. And so even though it's relatively small and it's taking up space for such a relatively low amount of time too, as it's zooming around. Let's see. This is from Lourdes DK. This is a question for another one of those. Why don't they just strap a Dragon on top of Falcon Heavy for the Artemis mission instead of spending billions on SLS? So Falcon Heavy. So Dragon isn't certified right now to be able to go out to the moon and back. Falcon Heavy would probably have the performance to be able to get it on a TLI. But the real question is going to be, once Starship for the human landing system can take humans from, if they could park that in low Earth orbit and then get to the moon and land on the moon and come back, then why not just put them on a Dragon capsule and meet them in low Earth orbit and then land on the moon and come back? Like that's going to be the real question. It's why do that dangerous docking maneuver way out there at the moon? Why not get people into their spacecraft and do the docking and the transfer of people in low Earth orbit? Like that's the safer way. It's like if something happened, you can deorbit and return home safely. So, we have acquisition of signal from Cape Town, so that's good. Things are looking very good on the mission. So that's going to be the real question, is why are we doing the docking out at the moon in the first place? Obviously, if you have like a space station out there or something, like the Lunar Gateway, that makes sense because you can save a lot of energy by not having to fly the gateway back and forth, right? I mean, that's just impractical. You want to send as little mass out to the moon as possible because it is very hard to do a translunar injection. That's a big delta V change. So it takes a lot of energy to do that. So yeah, bringing a starship to and from Earth is also very hard to do. Or to and from Earth and the moon is a lot of energy. It will take basically a full starship to be able to do that. But if refueling is no big deal, they could fill up the Starship lunar lander in low Earth orbit, and then send people off to it, in low Earth orbit, even on a Dragon capsule, get them to the moon, land on the moon, come back. Now the problem is the lunar lander version won't have heat shield, so it won't really be able to aerobrake. It probably could do some aerobraking, but it might take like multiple orbits because you don't want to dip too far into the atmosphere with a standard, non-heat shielded vehicle. So we'll have to see what the plan totally is there. Just a guy having fun. Why no microphones on the rocket? I want to hear what stage sep and space sounds like. Well, first off, space sounds like nothing because there's no air to transfer sound through. But you actually do hear, even if you're inside a rocket, you do hear it running because sound does, of course, transfer through a medium. If you put your ear on, on a solid, you'll still hear sound transfer. It actually it moves faster through a solid than it does through the air. So one of my favorite clips, I use it a lot, is the clip from Rocket Lab when they have stage separation of their Electron rocket, and you do hear the stage separation. You hear the pushers, and then you hear some silence, and then you do hear the gas of the rocket engine hitting the camera. So that's that is sound traveling through those molecules because it's creating a non-vacuum environment for that little bit of time, and then it fades out, which is really, really fun. What year is the fender behind me? What fender is behind me right now? I think most things in my array are new. I'd say early. Some of them are early 2000s. That one's a weird one. That's a bass 6. That is a very strange guitar. It's a full octave lower. It's not a baritone. It's a full octave lower. I don't love it though. I thought I could get it to sound good, and I can't get it to sound good. So I like writing on it though because it's just kind of fun and different. This is from Adam. I was there with you in astonishment in the Starship landing. Truly historic. Thanks for making great commentary around this history. Watch launches with my daughter to get them psyched for space. That is awesome. Thank you, Adam, for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your excitement with your family. That is amazing. I'm going to answer a few more, and then I got to get on the road today. So got to get out of here again already. Some exciting things in the works. You guys will see as soon as I can tell you about it. Bob, if we find life at Europa, it won't be alien. We would be the aliens in that case. I mean, yeah, aliens is a relative term, but that's absolutely right. Thank you for your 7 months of membership. This is Kyle Pettit saying 2x, 8 orders of magnitude less than the launch cost. 2 times 8 orders of magnitude less than the launch cost. 2x or 8. So 16 orders of magnitude less than the launch cost? Is that what the super chat is? If so, that's awesome. And thank you so much, Kyle Pettit. I believe that we have corresponded before, so thank you. Dave Branson, thank you so much for becoming a member. And let's see. Bob Kerman Industries. Tim, you said you had 15 minutes. Just a reminder, you are absolutely right. I better get going. I am now late. So, all right. Yeah, that's actually a good point. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me here today. And huge congratulations so far to NASA and SpaceX. Again, find another feed to watch this because I do have to get going, unfortunately. That's the reality of my crazy schedule right now. So stand by the next thing. Hopefully the next thing you'll see from me is my freaking How We Know NASA Took Humans to the Moon video. I'm so sad because I was working on it. I was so excited to have it totally done here this month. Or feeling like it, and then all of a sudden Flight 5 happened, and I had to push the schedule around and get that How to Catch a Rocket video done. So that moved around, and I was making such good progress. I was like sitting there just so excited about it. Yeah, that's my life in a nutshell right now. So thank you guys for listening, and thank you again for your support. All of you that are hanging out with me today, you guys are awesome. And again, final reminder, astroawards.live. Get your tickets before they're gone because they are already selling out. Which is exciting. We're going to have a decent amount of general admission tickets because we have a big theater. So They won't all sell out, but the upper packages are already selling out quickly. So get it while you can. January 25th, 26th, Austin, Texas, Paramount Theater, and a big party as well. So astrooawards.live. Love you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Again, huge congratulations. NASA and SpaceX will be paying attention to see if the Europa Clipper mission is truly on its way to Europa after 2 gravity assists and about, over 6 years of transit. It'll be worth the wait. It'll be amazing. So thanks, everybody. That's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. Goodbye, everybody. Surprise! It's me again real quick. I realized, so we had a problem with our chat at the beginning of this whole thing, and we had things like Dave Graham tracking yesterday. Thank you so much. These are now back in my queue. It has been fixed. Thank you so much for bearing with me. Total surprise here. T Sweetwater, any chance there's a Starship and booster model in the works? Yes, once the thing stops iterating every 5 minutes. This is from Michael Charleboy, became a member. Thank you so much. Anthony, exit realtor carrier, NASA spaceflight. Well, thank you for saying NASA, for paying me to say NASA spaceflight. Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys. That's all. Bye, guys. Wait, I'm back again. Now I see the Matt Schrodinger. That one didn't show up. That one didn't show up in my queue. Here's Matt's. Not sure anything will ever top what we see yesterday. Regular launches. Won't see anything as exciting anymore. Keep up the great work, Tim. Thank you, Matt, for 44 months of membership. I'm sorry that I missed that. Love you. Bye-bye.